given time, there are dozens of volcanoes erupting on Earth. Reports coming from the remote island of Fogo off the coast of Africa are especially alarming. A river of molten lava is advancing on one of its villages. How far will it go? The answer could be the difference between life and death for its residents. I know firsthand how volcanoes behave. I've rappelled deep into exploding fiery craters and explored, up close, many of the world's most active volcanoes. To understand what's happening in Cabo Verde, I have to go and see it for myself.
Wow!
I'm on my way to Cabo Verde, cluster of 10 volcanic islands off the coast of West Africa. Santiago is the largest of the islands. From there, I'll travel to the island of Fogo, where its namesake volcano is erupting furiously. The last eruption on Fogo happened in 1995. 1,300 people were forced to flee their homes in the middle of the night as lava flowed through their houses and blocked the only road access to the town of Portela. Will the damage be as severe this time? Reports suggest it might actually be worse. Once in Santiago, I meet up with local guide Simon Levy to get up to speed on what's happened since the volcano started erupting just one week ago.
And what are they saying about the situation?
The situation is bigger than the last eruption in 1995.
And this eruption could end tomorrow, or it could go for months.
The people there and here also is all in panic, so they don't know what will happen, so that's the problem.
Wow, there is some concern that this whole area will be filled.
Yes, because Santas Caldeiras, the volcano is higher, so all the small village around, down, so the lava
just goes to the lowest points and fills up.
I need to get up there for myself and see where this lava is going and provide my assessment to emergency officials. With the Fogo airport closed, I have to travel by ferry.
Sorry. Squeeze on through.
And I'm not the only one. Emergency aid workers are also making their way to the island.
Looks like we're starting to line up now. The people that are evacuating from Fogo are just getting off of the ferry now, and hopefully soon, within the hour, I'll be on the boat and on my way. Hopefully.
It's a 4-hour ferry ride from Santiago to Fogo. Our trek to the volcano starts in São Felipe, the island's main city. From here, we'll need to drive up and into the volcano's caldera, the lowlands surrounding the volcano's peak, where the village of Portela is located. So far, the lava has reached the border of the town, steamrolling entire buildings of the new fort.
I've run into Patrick Barois. He's from France. He's a very, very experienced volcanophile, been all over the world. He was here in 1995 for the big eruption there, and he'd written 5 books about volcanoes.
Yes,
so what was it like here during 1995?
There is big lava flow, big explosion, big lava fountain, but this eruption is not the same, because this eruption is more dramatical, because the lava flow now has destroyed the ground, the villages. It's a problem to build a house in this kind of volcano, because it is the house of the volcanoes, and the volcano decide himself what to do.
Right. The people that build in there, they're basically building on the volcano's land, the volcano's property, and they're living on borrowed time by building in there.
By reaching the volcano, I'm hoping to see the lava flow's direction and get some insight as to whether or not it'll flow past Portela and into the village of Bandiera. It doesn't take long to hit roadblock number 1.
All the other alternative roads to go inside, it's completely destroyed. So that's the reason they stopped, because Portela village is completely covered with the lavas at the moment.
This is one of the villages where the people who've been evacuating from basically the destroyed towns have been setting up shop. Things are getting a little heated here. There are tents, there's food, there's water, but it's crowded. There's only one toilet for the whole facility, so some of the people are not too pleased.
The people who live here feel they're not being listened to and their needs are being ignored. They're extremely vulnerable, forced to live in the shadow of a volcano in order to take advantage of the rich soil this dangerous corner of the Earth offers. Part of Portela is already hit. Hopefully, the lava will stop before more damage is done.
So let's go to say
Well, let's get up to, of course, where we can.
How many lives are in danger? I've got to keep moving if I'm going to find out.
Visibility is so bad, can't see anything.
As the volcano is erupting, it's releasing carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. While these emissions don't have a huge impact on climate change, the combination of these gases can be lethal for people, animals, and vegetation. As we head towards Portela, we drive through barren land that until recently was thriving with agriculture, an important part of Fogo's economy. Despite the dangers of growing in close proximity to the volcano, more and more people are settling here because there's nowhere else for them to scratch out a living on the island.
All right.
I finally come face to face with what I've come here to see, the river of lava.
So this is the brand new lava flow. It's probably a couple of days old. It's not hot. It's warm. The sky is starting to clear up a little bit, so I'm kind of enthusiastic about that because I can hear the vent. The lava is erupting right now. Well, the peak of the volcano is there, above the cloud, but this eruption was not at the summit. This eruption was actually down a fissure eruption along the flanks on the side.
Volcanic fissure eruptions occur in cracks or fractures along the side of a volcano, rather than through the main cone or vent.
It's definitely still active. It's hard to hear, but it's definitely going on just behind those clouds.
Think of this lava flow as a snake.
Anything?
The tail is 1.5 miles behind us at the base of the volcano. If this is the body, where's the head? We need to get to the very front of this lava flow. Reports suggest it's in Portela.
Let's go.
But who knows what we'll find when we get there.
Fresh lava, let's go.
Lava's moving.
It's moving. That's
Each 1 hour.
Let's do it.
Three days ago, you could keep driving right to Portela. But unfortunately for us, this fast-moving river of lava passed through, leaving a wall of solid rock in its wake.
This used to be the road to the town of Portela, but for some reason, they can't use it anymore. Literally, the end of the road. A construction crew is further up the hill trying to build a new road so the town has access again, but it's going to take some time.
Giving up and turning around isn't an option. So we abandon our vehicle and hike the rest of the way. I need to get to the front of Fogo's lava flow for a sense of where it's going next.
We had to abandon the car because this road is not safe anymore to take a car onto because it could disappear very, very quickly.
Right now, we're at the base of the volcano. The molten lava is flowing from its side and traveling right into town. It's a huge threat to everyone who lives there.
I'm actually at the point where this lava flow is actually on top of the old lava flow from 1995. So you got stacked flows together.
and there's pieces tumbling down here. This whole thing is moving.
When a volcano erupts, all that lava, along with ash, rock fragments, and gases, are ejected into the atmosphere. While the gases will eventually dissipate, the volcanic material will settle and cool on the ground. Eventually, that material will break down and become young, fertile soil, containing many of the same elements found in commercial fertilizers. This can take anywhere from a decade to 100 years. Climate is the single most important factor for soil development. Tropical climates, like Cabo Verde's, help speed up this process. The volcanic soil on Fogo is perfect for harvesting vegetables, coffee beans, and wine grapes. For farmers, the benefits outweigh the risks. Finally, we've made it to Portela, or what's left of it. Until a few days ago, this whole area was covered in vineyards, producing export-quality wine. But the eruption has completely buried the most lucrative vineyards. Now, all that's left is a field of lava and a few drops of wine.
Some Fogo wine. So this is the last wine that was produced here. It's the very last batch. There will never be any more like this. Oh, that's very strong. That's good.
We knew the town had been hit, but nothing could have prepared us for this. And it's not close to being over.
It's almost unimaginable what's happening here. This unstoppable wall of hot rock is just steamrolling into the town of Portales. I'm up on a hill right now overlooking, and I got a really good view of how vast this lava flow is. And it just goes as far as the eye can see, and it's just pushing into the town. There is almost no chance for most of these buildings to survive.
Locals are trying to save as much as they can. They've removed doors, windows, furniture, and carried everything up the side of the hill where they pray the lava won't reach.
Ou seja, nesse momento ali, casa dinha, já que estou já mas completa.
So where was her house?
So the house is completely covered, and everything, all stuff inside. She didn't have time to take out.
The people of Portela have not only lost their homes, they've lost their livelihoods. It's absolutely devastating.
Hard to put into words. This unstoppable lava flow it's in town right now.
This is the head of the beast I've been chasing across the island. If I want to get close enough to analyze this lava, I need my heat-resistant suit. It can protect me from temperatures of up to 2,000 degrees.
Now, what this suit does is it protects me from the radiant heat. What it does not protect me from is the actual rocks, these avalanches of lava chunks. So the lava here is actually a little bit more fluid than in the other part of town. As soon as I touch my hammer to the lava, it just immediately bursts into flames. Even with the suit, that is unbearably hot. It's burning my ears. Ow! Ow!
I'm using an infrared thermometer. Lava can reach temperatures up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
I've gone off the scale.
This lava must be hotter than the 1,000 degrees that this thermometer can read.
Off the scale. Okay, that's useless.
Evacuation of these homes began as soon as the volcano first erupted.
Oh, wow. Oh, jeez. Holy smokes.
Less than a week ago, the family who lived here was forced to evacuate in the middle of the night, taking with them whatever they could carry.
The glass is broken. The door is hot. Wow, more glass coming through. Very, very soon, this wall is going to just completely come crashing in. I don't think this lock is going to hold it for much longer. It sounds like rain or hail outside, but it's actually rocks coming in. That was something.
I may have just avoided death by steamrolling hot lava. Even though the lava appears to be moving relatively slowly, it's actually moving at 100 feet an hour. It would take it under 3 hours to cross a football field. That's fast. In 4 days, the lava has destroyed just about everything in this town. And by the end of the week, another town will be in the lava's path.
To me, it blows my mind how we all live on this thin skin, this crust on top of the Earth. If you were to shrink the Earth down to the size of an apple, the crust that we live on would be about as thick as the skin on that apple. And everything else inside is basically this. Civilization exists because of geological permission, which is revocable at any time. I don't know how we do it. It's amazing.
It's the reason volcanoes are so closely monitored. Except poor countries don't always have the resources and latest technologies to observe them as carefully as they'd like to. This really is a world problem. While it's too late for Portela, other towns on the island are still at risk. So for now, my biggest concern is just how far this lava flow can go. And for that, I've got to get closer to the source. And I've just met a local who might be my ticket to the top.
It flies up about 600 feet and then it comes down, so it cools off on the way down.
Yeah,
but it's still enough instant. I mean, it goes like this. We thought the whole place was going.
How difficult is it to get there?
Man, 10 minutes.
So you can drive right up to a point and then walk for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I got my car right over here.
I love you.
There's tons of seismic activity.
Yeah.
This area is not stable. I mean, absolutely not. Just it's very, very, very quiet right now. But they do not know if it's going to blow or not. I'm trying to help these guys get rid of their wine, so I had a few glasses. I mean, they ain't going to be able to pump all of it up, so I'm going up there in a little while. It takes got about an hour walk back to the car.
Yeah.
But the twilight hour is the best. I see the smoke and the flames.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets dark, you can only see the
I mean, if we can follow you.
Sure, no problem.
So I met up with this very odd dude whose name is Vince, and he says that he can get me up to the vent. So I'm gonna trust him and follow him right now and see if we can get up there. It's starting to get dark, so we should be able to see that real incandescence coming up from the volcano. So I don't know how this is gonna work out, but stay tuned, we'll see.
Vince knows the roads of this island like the back of his hand. He usually leads fishing charters, but tonight he's guiding us as close to the eruption as possible. Then we'll have to hike the rest of the way. Hopefully getting this close to the source will get me the answers I'm looking for.
Now that night has fallen, I can clearly see that there's almost continuous explosions going on the flank of the volcano. There's actually two very vigorous vents and a lava flow coming down the side. It's a little hard to see still, but that just means I have to get a bit closer.
All right, folks. The really big lava flow, that's what's heading down into the towns. But higher up, the explosive part of the eruption, to me, it looks like there's too much lava for these explosions. So I think there's some lava tube or something below, further down the mountain, that's feeding these lava flows.
Lava tubes are formed when the top of lava flows hardens and forms a roof above them. It acts like a tunnel and drains the lava from the volcano. This may mean the threat is greater than I thought, and many more communities could be at risk, starting with the neighboring town of Banguera.
Every time there's an explosion, I can feel the shock wave and the ground shaking.
This is what's called a Strombolian eruption, named after the active Stromboli volcano in Italy. It spews lava at regular intervals.
You can see these lava bombs shooting up just hundreds and hundreds of yards up in the air and tumbling down the side. These glowing chunks of lava are being pushed out at high pressure from these expanding gases deep inside the earth.
I've got to be careful. There have been a few close ones.
A light show like this, it's nature's fireworks. It really is the best show on Earth. However, at the same time, if you're downhill of one of these things and the lava flow is coming for your village or your house, it's hard to appreciate the beauty.
Since the volcano first erupted 10 days ago, more than 1,000 people have fled their homes. Entire communities lost under hardened lava.
Let me tell you, what a difference a day makes. Yesterday, I was inside this building as the lava flow came crashing through the door. Today, the entire building is completely destroyed by this lava flow. The good news is that it has stopped, for now. I can still hear in the distance the volcano erupting, so it could restart at any time. We don't know exactly what the future is going to hold for this town.
The economic impact is enormous. Destroyed homes, lost livelihoods, less land available for agriculture. Many of the refugees will not be coming back. But fast forward 10, 20, 30 years from now, and this land will once again offer up the nutrient-rich soil that will attract a new wave of farmers. So, despite the risk of future eruptions, the people of Fogo will eventually rebuild their communities within the caldera. It is, after all, the only option they have. Within months of leaving the island, we get word that the volcano continued to erupt, and is feared, destroyed the neighboring town of Banguera. Months after the first eruption, it's not showing any signs of stopping.
Looked down, the river was racing below our living room window. And that's when I really went into a panic.
Oh my God.
Within a couple of hours, it went from nothing to 4 feet of water.
This storm system was stalled right over us. When was it going to end?
We're in front of a dam, and they were very concerned that if they didn't release the water, it was going to break.
I'm up on the roof, all of a sudden down the main street comes this big, dirty, filthy dump truck. It looked like our way out.
Holy.
As temperatures rise all around the globe, natural disasters are becoming more violent and more frequent. Extreme weather survivors have captured the intensity and the magnitude of these events. These are the first-hand accounts of a planet going rogue. On Wednesday, June 19th, 2013, torrential rains trigger the worst flood in Alberta's history. It became known as the Flood of Floods.
There it is.
Over 100,000 people are forced out of their homes, and 5 lives are lost. The destructive power and speed of the floodwaters caught everyone by surprise, including meteorologist David Spence.
I had no idea the enormity of what was to come. Sure, we saw heavy rain coming, but the full consequences of that heavy rain, I don't think we realized at that point.
Well, there's a little bit of lightning going on close by. It's not directly over me. Oh, almost over me. Look at the snow.
Up in the Rocky Mountains, layers of snow that have accumulated over a long, hard winter are still melting.
Somewhere just south of Canmore, and it is just freaking storming out here. It's raining like crazy. All the little creeks are swelling up. You can see on the roadside there, all the little ditches are, mudding up with water. And
the runoff from the melting snow pours into Cougar Creek in Canmore, where John Marriott lives.
It was just incredible. There was all of a sudden water in there, a couple feet worth of water in there. And we were quite excited, thinking, wow, never seen Cougar Creek actually flowing before. So took a couple of videos and went to bed and didn't really think anything else of it.
What John doesn't know is that southern Alberta is about to get slammed by a perfect storm of powerful and diverse weather systems.
June 13th, I noticed that there was a big low-pressure system in the Pacific, off the west coast. And these things develop all the time, but this one was just hanging out there, and it stayed out there for several days. And then it made a connection with the jet stream and started to move to the east. And then it hits terrain, it hits the foothills and the mountains. And that causes the air to move up. Added to that, we had something called an atmospheric river. That atmospheric river drew some moisture all the way from the Gulf of Mexico, connecting with this circulation, and it's just like the low pressure system itself. When that moisture goes up the slope, it rises, cools, condenses, and generates even more rainfall.
Good morning, Rob Murray here. A local state of emergency has been declared in Canmore. Sorry, give me a second to catch my breath. I was right upstairs. Whew.
I got dressed really quickly, ran out the door, and got to the radio station, ran up the stairs, turned on the microphone, and breathlessly just started saying, "State of emergency, here we go."
Canmore, Alberta, located about 100 kilometers west of Calgary, sits at the edge of the Banff National Park in the Rockies. The town, elevation about 1,400 meters, is home to over 13,000 residents.
Banks of Cougar Creek are unstable. Please stay away from Cougar Creek.
Instead of the creek being 50 yards away from us, suddenly it was 10 yards away from it was almost right at our fence line. And we all of a sudden realized, holy cow, this is serious. It was a bit surreal because we're looking at the creek and we're trying to decide, how fast is it eating away at these banks? How much time do we have?
The runoff that was starting to occur in the mountains was already affecting towns in the mountains in the foothills, towns like Canmore, where Cougar Creek, which is normally a pretty dry stream bed, all of a sudden is full of water and property is getting destroyed.
I cannot believe this, man. It's insane.
And then sort of 7:38, things really started taking a turn for the worse, and it started eating away into our backyard. I put in a call to my insurance company at 8 a.m. They phoned me back at 8:01, as soon as they opened, and said, "You're actually not covered under insurance."
This is unbelievable devastation. I cannot believe it. These houses are all screwed.
I remember this moment. I walked into my living room and I looked down, and right below me, the river was racing, literally below our living room window. And I thought, I got to get out of here. I should not be standing here. And that's when I think we both really went into a panic. We thought we were going to lose our house at that point. And I just turned around and walked straight out of the house.
Our planet is in turmoil, and I'm watching it with my own eye. Like, this is a 100-year flood. This stuff doesn't happen. This is just unbelievable. I cannot believe it.
It is flowing like crazy. There is some major erosion on the banks. And wow, I've never seen it flowing like this before. So again, town of Canmore has declared a state of local emergency.
The first call I made was to my wife, you have to leave. You have to go now. Pack up a bag, get the dog, the cat, our 2-year-old child at the time, and just go. It was absolutely pouring rain. Not only was Cougar Creek flowing, but pretty much any mountain creek around here were raging torrents that were carving a path of destruction through roads, highways, anything in their path.
Highway 40 in Kananaskis closed in a couple of sections. North end of Kananaskis Village, another in the south end at Fortress Junction.
Oh no, this is no good. I don't even think we can get into the town.
Toronto-based Nick Savarna and his business partner Tim Rydell are driving to Banff for work.
While we were near Canmore, we started to notice water going over the highway, torrential downpour. It was ripping down trees, bringing trees along the side, and it's actually going to wash it out.
Doesn't look too good. Oh no.
We came up to a wall of vehicles, and we were told to get off the highway because it was about to be washed out.
Apparently there's a huge slide. He doesn't know whether the slide was west of Banff, but he says we can try going up here and cutting across and taking Highway 40. But he says it might be, it might be closed too.
All the bridges are blown out. There's bulldozers in the creek beds trying to widen them so that the water has somewhere to funnel through. And there's still water literally just pumping out of these mountains like a broken faucet.
Banff and Canmore are situated near the top of the Bow River Basin. The Bow River usually runs across the slopes of the Rockies, through Calgary, and drops down, running almost all the way to Medicine Hat. But now the water flow is growing so quickly, it's spilling over its banks and is beginning to destroy the Trans-Canada Highway, the main road connecting the communities of southern Alberta.
The Trans-Canada currently closed both east and westbound at Cougar Creek. Town of Canmore has declared a state of local emergency.
Hey, how do we get back to Calgary?
At this point, you don't.
The road's closed?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, at this point, we're kind of stuck and we got a couple of washouts at this end we're working on, trying to clear it up, so at this point, you can't.
So the only place basically we can go is back in there?
Yeah, yeah.
So at this point, we can neither go back to Calgary nor go on to Banff. Right now we're heading towards Cougar Creek. It's still raining very hard. It doesn't appear that it's going to stop anytime soon. This is the first natural disaster that I've experienced, and it was just really hard to feel stuck in one place. You're just under Mother Nature and under her will, and you just have to take it.
The highways are washed out. People cannot get in or out of town, and we don't know how bad this is going to get.
And that's exactly what David Spence is trying to predict.
David Spence is in our Skywatch Weather Center. David, more rain on the way, but where does it stand right now?
The heaviest rain still to come will be in the area that least needs it. So that would be the Canmore Bow Valley region. But in the news broadcast, they can tell you what's happening and what has happened. It's my job to tell you what's going to happen. And when you have a weather event like this, and you know that you've already missed a lot of the impact by forecasting a third of the rain that's going to fall, you're concentrating really hard and working really hard to get it right and make sure the information from there on in is correct, accurate, saves property and saves lives.
Before the Bow River monitoring gauges blew out, they recorded peak flow rates of about 1,000 cubic meters of water per second. Now the water is flowing into adjacent rivers, including the Highwood River.
And that river just happens to take some of its twists and turns right through the town of High River. So water wants to flow in a straight line, but if your riverbank is turning, the water's going to go over the riverbank and into the town.
This is an Alberta emergency alert. Highwood River has caused serious flooding in High River. If you are in the affected area, evacuate immediately.
Oh my God.
A mandatory evacuation is ordered. But for many High River residents, including Jonathan Reimer, his sister, and his dad, it's too late.
There is a mandatory evacuation, and we get into the truck, and at that point, the water's already half a foot up the tires.
We were driving, and we heard of lots of cars stalling and people having to escape and get onto their roofs, and the water was rushing in fast.
Uh-oh. No catcher. Yeah, this is getting deep. I don't want to be stranded in a vehicle.
It was just like the muddiest water you've ever seen, and it was everywhere. If you've ever seen a really, really dirty river, that's what it looked like, except it was everywhere. As far as the eye could see, water.
And downtown at the Sobeys grocery store where Jen Keys just started her shift, the situation is no better.
Everywhere you look, there's water, and it's fast. Like, it's not just slowly seeping in water. This water's coming fast. Within a couple of hours, it went from nothing to 4 feet of water. It's just coming and coming and coming, and there's just no end to it. We're watching our vehicles in the parking lot, the water get higher and higher. By that time, the water in the parking lot was at least hip level. So we kind of did what we could to barricade the front door.
But when the water starts pouring in, they know they're in trouble.
It was scary, it was surreal, it was, I don't know, so many emotions. Everybody was speechless. What do you say?
On June 20th, 2013, the flood of floods is turning large parts of southern Alberta into a disaster zone.
This is unbelievable devastation.
Overflowing rivers rush down the slopes of the Rockies, destroying critical infrastructure and thousands of homes. And for Jonathan Reimer and his family, there seems to be no way out of High River.
That's blocked off out there. Yeah, I don't think we're going anywhere.
By the time we were done driving in circles, it was another half foot up. It had risen for every minute we were out there, it had gone up another 2 or 3 centimeters.
Yeah, I think we should turn back while we still can.
As we were driving, none of us felt right to continue forward, and there were lots of other vehicles out there trying to get away, and it just didn't feel right that we would continue on, and so we turned around.
Yeah, we're stuck.
Center Avenue, right near 3rd Street Northwest, is completely taken over by the river. There's a lot of water here, and it's still coming. It's still getting higher. Okay, if you're in high river, get out.
Holy cow.
Powerless in the grips of such a deluge, the residents' only refuge is on top of their roofs.
Water's pushing 4 feet up the doorway in each side coming through. I scrambled up the stairs, and now I'm out on the roof, and here we are standing now looking over the town that's completely gone.
That is crazy.
We went upstairs. We didn't know if somebody was coming to get us or what was going on.
Good morning, the Eagle.
Oh, this is Sonia calling from High River.
Oh, hi.
Our town is in a complete panic of a state.
With such a late warning, High River residents are in shock. It seemed no one had seen this coming.
In the mountains where the Highwood River starts, that was the area of the greatest rainfall. That was the area where they had 300 millimeters of rain, and all that came down the Highwood and had nowhere to go but to flood the town.
First responders and other members of the community initiate search and rescue operations for the 13,400 residents and visitors in the town. 150 of them from rooftops.
There was people getting rescued from other businesses around and stuff, and they were rescuing them in like dump trucks and front-end loaders and whatever they could, right?
I'm up on the roof and I realize we're not getting down. There's nowhere to go. And all of a sudden, just like the cavalry coming, this big dump truck comes down the street, plowing through the water. It looked like our way out. Everyone was dirty and muddy and wet, but we know we're getting out of there.
Jeez, eh?
This wasn't in the plans this morning.
We tried to flag people down, and we actually caught the attention of a manure truck that was going down the streets as well. So they were waving at us, so we climbed down.
I'm seeing windows knocked out of buildings. It's a complete shambles. There's people sitting in their stores on their counters waiting to get out because they couldn't get out the doors. The pressure of the water was too hard to get out.
Well, there's somebody upstairs there.
I don't know where higher ground is.
All of the stores, there's water in them. The manure truck is still picking up more people. And there's brand new SUVs that you can just watch the water as it fills the interiors. And we realized this is really bad.
And then we heard helicopters. Somebody went out and we flagged the helicopter down to let them know that we were in the store. And then we started sending people to the back to go up the roof. Well, I'm in the helicopter and I'm looking out the window and I see dirty water everywhere. That's all you see. And there's no definition. I don't see vehicles. I'm not seeing roads. I don't see sidewalks. I don't see parks. I just see, everywhere I look, I just see water. And I see water rushing where water shouldn't be. That's when I think to myself, holy crap, like this is crazy, this is bad.
But it was about to get a lot worse.
People were losing their property, people were losing their homes to flooding. Some people had lost their lives by this point. When was it going to end?
When the low-pressure system that originated in the Pacific moved into northern Montana and up into southern Alberta, it was blocked by a high-pressure system to the north. Meteorologists call this phenomenon a Rex block.
It just kept dumping moisture tons of moisture on southern Alberta. I mean, this storm system was stalled right over us. When was it going to move out? This is when I first realized the rain is not going to stop anytime soon, and that this flood is going to intensify, and then it was going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I knew, you know, this is more than a Canmore story. This is going to be a Calgary story as well, because these rivers do flow fast, and it wasn't going to take very long for the floodwaters that were in Canmore to reach Calgary.
Calgary is one of Canada's largest cities. Once nicknamed Cowtown by cattle farmers and cowpokes, Calgary exploded during the oil boom of the 1970s. Today, Calgary is a cosmopolitan city of skyscrapers and industry, with a population of over 1 million. But Cowtown still celebrates its roots every July with the massive Calgary Stampede.
Downtown is a very low-lying area. We have Mission District, the Stampede grounds, all very close to the Elbow River. Now, many of the people living in those areas had also been through earlier flooding. There was a flood in 2005. And I was hoping they weren't thinking this was going to be another 2005, because this was going to be much worse.
The flood of 2005 destroyed 40,000 homes in the city, and this was expected to be worse.
The water coming under the Bow River Bridge is rising pretty high right now.
Soon this will be all underwater.
Yeah, it's insane.
On June 20th, 2013, Alberta's superflood devastated 1/4 of the province.
These houses are all screwed.
Torrential rains, melting snow, and overflowing rivers forced southern Alberta to declare a state of local emergency in 9 different localities. And as a raging river of angry floodwaters rushes towards Calgary, John Marriott in Canmore wonders if his house will survive.
We are going to stay here. We feel it's safer for us here than going downtown and being just part of the chaos down there. You know, it kind of also allowed us to keep watch on our house a bit, which we were concerned about. We kind of wanted to be there if it went.
It's still raining, and I can still sort of see through the cracks between the houses that the river's still going pretty strongly, and it's right against this side, running up against all of our houses.
We were able to get some news out to people, both family and friends. Person up the street ended up getting us to go up to their house, and we went up there and took some stuff out of their safe that they did not want to lose.
Back to our top story now. In major flooding across southern Alberta tonight, mandatory evacuations in some communities. David Spence standing by in our Skywatch Weather Center.
By the time we got to the 5 o'clock broadcast, we had reports coming in from all over southern Alberta. If you are in this area, you're in for a lot more rainfall. The rainfall warning's still in effect.
As the Bow River overflows, rushing high waters tear through many small communities and resort villages on its banks, including Kananaskis, Wypers Lake, and Bragg Creek, population 454. And everyone knows Calgary is next.
The Bow is in a fairly steep valley. Much of the city, thankfully, is well above the level that the Bow River would ever flood. But downtown Calgary, some of the older parts of the city, very vulnerable to flooding.
Low-lying neighborhoods near the Bow and Elbow rivers are under mandatory evacuation. Doug Griffiths is in charge of emergency management.
I was thinking the most important message we're going to need to get out is that people need to comply with the request to evacuate. It's saving lives that's the most important part in those first few hours.
As a last resort, authorities reach out to the companies overseeing the hydroelectric dams along the river.
There's 11 dams along the Bow River. And so the concept was, let's just catch more of the water as it comes flowing through. Except they are retention dams, not detention dams.
Detention dams relocate water, but retention dams hold water on a more permanent basis. Now they're filled to the brim, and engineers need to decide if they can hold the water or release it.
Here we are with a flood coming, and there's no easy decision. If you let water go, you save the dam, but the devastation could be magnitudes much worse downstream. But if you hold it and the dam breaks, you amplify it even further.
My concern at that time was, is the Ghost Lake Dam going to hold this water? Is the Ghost Lake Dam going to prevent flooding in Calgary? I didn't know, because it's not a huge dam.
The Ghost Lake Dam is the closest dam upriver from Calgary. It's a hydroelectric dam, generating about 51 megawatts of electricity a year, enough to power over 60,000 homes. The engineers shut the gates and halt the water. With the Bow River gushing at a rate of 2,300 cubic meters of water per second, the reservoir is now full, and engineers have no choice but to release some water onto the spillways.
This is an Alberta emergency alert. City of Calgary has issued an overland flood alert. This is a mandatory evacuation. Evacuate immediately.
In Calgary, Colleen Baird is not taking any chances.
They're saying it's going to happen. The water will rise and cover a good part of the island, and we need to start moving animals.
The Calgary Zoo was built on an island in the middle of the river, and its many residents include large mammals and dangerous predators.
We had tiger cubs, we had a mom, and then another male, so we had lots of tigers. So our vet team had to come down and start to anesthetize 6 tigers, and it takes time. We had, lions, we have snow leopards, and so we had to immobilize a lot of large cats on that day. We have to find crates. We have to catch animals. We need nets. We need X amount of crates for these species. We need so many crates over here. And as the day was happening, it was going so fast. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is gonna take us way longer than I thought.
As night falls over the province, Colleen is still moving her animals to safety. Just past 1 in the morning, she finally gets a chance to take a brief nap.
I'm sleeping on my cot, and the phone rang. It was our facilities director, and he said, Colleen, what does it look like out there? I get outside, and I see, for the first time, water, and a lot of water.
And while they moved as many animals off the island as they could, some are still in their enclosures.
We went to the building where the giraffe and hippos are being kept, and I noticed that the window's broken below the water. And I was like, oh my goodness, a hippo could escape here. A hippo could leave this building and come and share the same space where I am in this boat.
A massive and unrelenting rainfall has swollen the rivers and creeks of southern Alberta. Torrential runoffs from the Rocky Mountains submerged small towns along the Bow River. Now downtown Calgary is under attack. And on the morning of June 21st, Doug Griffiths surveys the damage from the air.
I have never seen so much water in my life. It was as though there were high-rises popping out of a lake. You know, I've seen flooding in small communities before, but to see an entire downtown core of a city under 10, 12 feet of water, the Saddle Dome was a third full of water. It felt apocalyptic.
Downtown is shut down, and I mean shut down. There is the Saddle Dome underwater. Apparently up to 10 rows up are underwater inside.
The Saddle Dome, home to the NHL's Calgary Flames and the 1988 Winter Olympics, suffers major damage. The floodwaters submerged the dressing rooms, the ice plant, ice resurfacing machines, and the kitchens. And everything on the Saddle Dome event level, the nerve center for games and concerts, is a total loss.
We were aghast for the first while and in shock.
At the Calgary Zoo, Colleen Baird has moved as many animals off the island as she could, but the big animals still remain locked in their enclosures.
I couldn't get into the building where the giraffe and hippos are being kept. So my colleague and I, we went to the back of the building to see if we can look into some of the windows. And just out of chance, a hippo head appeared in the window. And I had that wonderful moment where I'm like, oh, thank goodness, the hippo is alive. And then he goes underwater, and I noticed that the window's broken below the water. And I felt at that point, a hippo could escape here. A hippo could leave this building and come and share the same space where I am in this boat.
As well as being rather large, hippos are also rather aggressive, especially when defending their territory.
At that point, I didn't know where the hippo was, and my colleague and I, we had to act. This hippo needed to stay in this building. We had this container full of straw, the metal container. We were able to get it in position, open the doors, sink it, flood it, and secure it in front of that window so that a hippo could not come out that window. So he was contained and in the building. At that point, we knew that we were safe, and we knew the hippos were secure.
26 Calgary neighborhoods are under mandatory evacuation. But a few good neighbors are staying behind and volunteering to help.
Shima, look at this. It's okay, we should just go.
Roham Palavan and his wife patrol the Rideau community.
When I saw the old lady with a walker up to her waist in water, my heart sank.
Do you need help?
This way.
The water was so cold for a young and healthy man. I couldn't imagine what it was like for her. And I couldn't imagine even how far she had walked, because it was in the middle of the parking lot where I picked her up. So we brought the first two people to the edge of the shore and we let them out of the truck. And then we drove back into where I saw another building.
My husband there trying to get my mom out of that building. She's 80-some years old lady there. Okay, we're Give good. her a ride back here. Sure, of course. He's right there in the yellow jacket. Okay, Just get her don't worry.
We started ferrying people out maybe at around 11:30 or 12. Before I knew it, it was 4 p.m. And we were wet and we were cold.
To make matters even worse, the water is not just coming from up above, it's also coming up from down below.
It's overflowing here into the street.
One of the major issues that we were facing was the sewer backing up, clogging streets and into homes. It became a public health issue. Every city's set up in a very similar way. The sewer water gets cleaned, it gets drained into the river, but when the river fills up because of the flood, it backs up, and then it's got nowhere to go, and you combine that with the stormwater coming into the stormwater system, and it meets in the middle and creates massive pressure. And you wind up with a situation where we had actually heard of manhole covers just flipping off like dimes because the pressure was so great.
Millions of gallons of sewage.
That is raw sewage. It stinks.
Kit Kaiser experienced the full destructive power of the water when he checked on his grandparents' house.
You know, the first part was getting into the house, just getting the door open. Everything's warped at that point, and you're trying to push in, and there's water inside the house. But then you walk inside, and everything that's not attached is moved, and the big countertop, it was flipped over and tossed on the floor. Nice layer of mud everywhere.
It's up.
The flow of water is unstoppable, and all the authorities can do is to give residents advance notice of the impending disaster.
There was no way we were going to be able to stop the water that day. Getting people to safety was the most important aspect, and it was for those that afternoon that were flooding, but also to give advance warning to the communities downriver that the flood was still coming to hit.
Look at this, it is an ocean.
It is an ocean.
It is an ocean. Dad, get off this bridge.
Yeah, hurry.
Downstream from Calgary at the bottom of the Bow River Basin, the people of Medicine Hat know they're sitting directly in the path of the oncoming flood. And many people, like Damien Voisin, prepare for the worst.
Just the community getting together. I'm sorry the video's shaky. That's my hands shaking. So I've been going steady for the last 5 hours.
So we're watching on the news this devastation that happened in High River and how Calgary's being affected by this, and they're getting hit pretty hard. So we come to the realization it's coming here. We better get ready because, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. They have no idea how bad it's going to be.
Evacuation order, so let's get as much done to help people out as we can.
A bunch of people came. It was great. Some people were just bringing in coffee and donuts because they couldn't do the physical part, so that was their part. And other people were just helping with the filling of the sandbags. Other people were carting them to where they had to be. And we were helping one house, the other house. It didn't matter. We were just helping each other. We started sandbagging the front door, and then we'd do in the basement windows and everything else that we could figure out and kind of get it as best as we could and make sure everything was covered around the foundation. And now we're just plugging up the drains as best we can to prevent it from backflowing into the house. I've read and I've seen, even on the news, they're talking about it, where the biggest problem was a sewer backup and people's houses being full of, you know, not very good stuff. And that's the worst stuff to have to clean up, and does the most damage. So we got sinks plugged. Oh, we gotta do this sink still. And we got the toilet plugged. Got a sandbag on the bottom drain. It might not stop it completely, but it might prevent more damage than necessary. Hopefully, this will be enough. If it's not enough, then I don't know what to say. I don't even want to think about it.
With the floodwaters speeding towards Medicine Hat, Damien can only hope his work is not in vain. A torrential rainfall over southern Alberta has triggered the worst flooding in the history of the province.
Our planet is in turmoil. Like, this is a 100-year flood. This is just unbelievable. I cannot believe it.
But there's no denying it. This flood is a dangerous killer. Under mandatory evacuation, thousands have already fled their homes, and the floodwaters continue to rise.
Holy cow.
Look at this. It is an ocean. Now get off this bridge.
Yeah, hurry. With homes and now critical infrastructure at risk, Doug Griffiths, the Minister of Municipal Affairs in Alberta, calls for reinforcements.
We had the Army who had joined us with 2,200 troops. We had the Alberta Sheriff's Department and the RCMP coordinating for search and rescue. We had a massive amount of personnel had come together from all sorts of emergency services across the province, which made the rescue efforts very successful.
Helicopters are dispatched, including a Lockheed C-130 Hercules, to help evacuate people stranded by the floodwaters. Emergency operations are in full force when meteorologist David Spence realizes there's a break in the weather system.
At that point, we started to see the storm starting to move. So not only were we able to go on the air and give people the information they needed, we also gave them the information they wanted to hear, which was that the storm was finally going to pull out.
Well, the news from the Skywatch Weather Center is all good this morning. All the warnings have ended, not only in Alberta, but in all of Canada. There are no weather warnings.
So it was kind of a cathartic situation that we were finally able to say, hey, this thing's winding down. This thing's coming to an end.
Under sunny skies in Canmore, Nicholas Savarna and his business partner, Tim Rydell, are on the move. They got a tip that one side of the Trans-Canada Highway had been opened, and local police were providing escorts for a few small groups of vehicles headed towards Calgary.
Woo! Are we going home? Yep. Man, what luck! What luck! All right, here we go. Here we go.
Being able to get on that highway and be escorted out of the mountains towards Calgary, we're jumping for joy. We're slapping the steering wheel. We're excited. It was just pure happiness at this point and relief.
But not everyone has somewhere to go. When the Bow River spilled its banks, several large Siksika First Nation communities an hour east of Calgary were devastated.
They had over 1,000 people that needed to be evacuated, if I recall, and 200 homes that were destroyed because they were down near the river too. And they were just as devastated as any of the other communities that we worked with.
The flood destroyed or damaged 1,000 Medicine Hat homes. But when the rising waters stopped short of expected levels, some owners caught a lucky break.
It looks like the water didn't even touch it. Looks like it was all for naught, which is better than frickin' anything I can imagine. I mean, you feel bad for the houses that were affected, but it wasn't you know, up to your second story or the whole floor, you know, taken out or anything like that. It was mostly basements and, you know, some people's backyards, but not just total devastation.
But no, this is awesome news. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Not everyone was so lucky. Authorities confirmed that 4 people lost their lives in the disaster. And a 33-year-old woman, Jackie Brocklebank from High River, was still missing. For 2 days, Jackie's family searched the evacuation centers in and around High River in vain. Then Jackie's mother received word that her daughter's body had been found. She'd lost her life in the floodwaters.
My understanding is that the water came and Jackie got hit by debris.
Just a few hours before she was killed, Jackie saved the life of a friend.
I think it's really important that High River remember the lives that were lost, and she was an important part of this town.
Jackie's death raised the death toll to 5. As waters slowly recede in Calgary, they tell a different story in High River. The town, named after the Highwood River that runs through it, is up to its neck in filthy, stagnant floodwater.
With the immediate disaster behind us, we had to try and hire the right team to come in and do the cleanup.
Commercial divers, bulldozers, and truckloads of gear are brought in from all over the country, including some high-capacity mobile industrial pumps.
We had worked out a strategy with the Emergency Operations Center in High River and the crews to build berms to divide up the community so that we could start to pump it out section by section, so we could at least start to free up some homes so that people would have the chance to go back and assess the damage.
High-volume pumps can suck in 45,000 liters a minute. Smaller pumps can suck 3,400 liters a minute. Combined, these pumps push out 400 million liters a day. But despite all this technology, some houses could not be saved.
There were a lot of very unhappy people. They felt devastated and they wanted to go home, but many of them, there was no home to go back to. And that was probably the most emotionally challenging time, not just for me, but for the entire team, for police officers, because we knew we were in it for a long time.
Weeks would pass before the financial costs of the Alberta floods would be known. But it would take more than time to heal the scars of those who lost more than they could bear. Two weeks after the worst flood in Alberta's history, some residents are allowed to return home. And John Reimer and his family are among the first to return to High River.
Everything is caked in layers and layers of mud. The railroad running beside the road, it had been pushed over by the force of the water and was now a fence. We head up the stairs to our house, open the door. First thing we notice is the stench. It smells like sewage and dirt and rotting meat. We had 2 fridges, one downstairs, one upstairs, and our freezer. We have to empty them out. We get to work right away. We're hauling things out. We rip out the carpet as soon as we can. And so we start tearing down. The ceiling was completely waterlogged because it had all evaporated.
The government of Alberta declared the flood of 2013 to be the worst in the history of the province.
And a lot of these people were not covered by insurance. So that perhaps was the most difficult part of the recovery, is just seeing the people who truly did suffer and knowing that it was going to be a very long time before they were able to come out of it. And I'm not sure everybody's come out of it all these years later.
It became known as the Flood of Floods. Over 100,000 people were forced from their homes. From the city of Calgary to the suburbs and the small towns across the southern reaches of the province, the floodwaters upended, damaged, or destroyed almost everything they touched. Claude Ferdin's house in the town of Exshaw was demolished. The Ferdins decided to look for a bargain among the homes the government had just bought and marked for demolition in the floodplains of High River.
There was an auction, and the opening bid was around $100 or $200 per house. So I talked with my wife, and we started to look at the idea of moving the whole house.
With a low purchase price, the Ferdins could afford to move the house to a flood-safe neighborhood and also pay for the renovations.
If we continue to build homes in floodways, if we continue to build berms that just accelerate the water downstream and cause more disaster somewhere else, all we're doing is feeding the beast. And if we feed the beast, it's just going to get bigger and the disasters will get worse.
The Ferdins moved their house 150 kilometers to high grounds in the town of Exshaw, a place they now call home.
It feels really good to have come this far, and to bring a house like this all the way from High River was something that I think sounded crazy to start with and feels crazier now that it's done. But we're really proud of where we've come and the result of what we've finished.
Calgary Stampede Park was almost completely submerged by the floodwaters. With less than 2 weeks to go before opening day of the 101st Stampede, organizers orchestrated a massive recovery effort, and the rodeo, exhibition, and festival opened on time. Proof to all that Cowtown had come roaring back.
We call this a 1 in 100 year flood because a flood like this theoretically happens once every 100 years, a generational event. Chances are, people who went through the flood are never going to see something like that in their lives. But there are no guarantees. Those are just odds. And odds can be beaten. And this is the kind of odds you don't want to beat.
whole head was in its mouth.
And just literally just trying to break my skull.
It was eating me.
It's everyone's worst nightmare, being eaten alive by a wild animal. In this episode, 3 terrifying stories of people who've been savaged by bears. What's it like to become human prey? Summer of 2005, Johan Otter tried to save his daughter from the jaws of an angry grizzly while hiking in Montana.
I really felt like I was trying to rip my head off. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done.
Glacier National Park, one of America's last great wilderness areas. It's home to the nation's most feared predator, the grizzly bear. Every year, grizzlies claim the lives of people who get too close. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna are here for a hiking vacation.
This one right here.
Right here.
Yep.
To celebrate her graduation.
All right. And it's kind of cool that your daughter still wants to go on a senior trip, you know, and with Dad to go into the mountains.
But today's ambitious hike will test them in more ways than they can possibly imagine. Survival in this wilderness is brutal. This female grizzly is dangerous. She has 2 cubs and will attack anything that comes near them. Dr. Barry Gilbert knows just how deadly these bears can be. He himself was badly mauled by a grizzly.
Grizzly bears have the smallest young of any of the mammals. They can weigh 2 or 3 pounds when they're young, so they're really vulnerable. This is what has caused the female to evolve into being suicidally aggressive. She lays out her all for those cubs.
It's too early for other hikers to be on the trail.
I sort of had this underlying nervousness. In the morning and the evening hours are the prime feeding times for animals, so that's when they're going to be out and about a lot more.
Oh, I gotta take a video of this.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
But Dad, we've got a long way to go. Let's keep going.
But Johan and Jenna are seasoned hikers.
The precaution I knew when hiking was just to make noise.
We knew to not be too quiet, although we didn't know how loud to actually be. We talked continuously during that time, and we made sure we looked around as much as possible.
You can run to work and then take a shower then.
So your mom wanted me to have a talk with you about keeping to your studies.
They also carry a can of bear spray. This is their only defense against a predator attack.
We didn't have it on our belt, it was just in the backpack. You know, really thinking that you're not going to be able to have to use that. It's not going to happen to you.
They climb higher and further away from human habitation. If anything should happen to them, Johan and Jenna are on their own. Grizzlies normally steer clear of people. They can pick up a scent from over 2 miles away. But the wind is blowing down the mountain, away from the bear.
And that would just negate the bear's best warning system, which is its nose, its sense of smell. And that's almost a perfect storm scenario.
The grizzly is now on a deadly collision course.
A surprised bear is an angry bear, and an angry bear is an aggressive bear and a dangerous bear.
So do you honestly think that you're going to be able to keep up with, practice and dance? Look at this.
High above the lake, the view is spectacular. Johan and Jenna fall silent, a mistake that could cost their lives.
There's a bend in the trail, so you can't see around it, but you don't expect anything to be around it, which I guess is a bad assumption to make. In front of me is a mother grizzly bear, followed by 2 cubs right behind her. I thought, I'm going to die.
If you turn and run, you've immediately put a hamburger sign across your back.
To save his daughter, Johan puts his own life on the line.
And it's something instinctual. It's not something you actually think about. It basically went into my thigh.
The bear bites deep into Johan's leg, again and again, right down to the bone.
It wasn't like with holding on to my leg and just kind of being in there. No, it was kind of in-out type of thing.
If he wants to live, Johan has to break loose. But there's only one way out. Down.
I decided to jump off the trail. It was about 20 25 feet into some bushes. My eye was already bleeding or something like that at that point, so something must have gotten into my face. Because the animal went at me like this, so it must have been one of the claws.
Then I see the can of bear spray that my dad had in the side pocket of his backpack. I pick up the can, but I didn't know how to work the can. And you can't really stop and read instructions at that point.
Out of time and options, Jenna leaps into the unknown. Johan has no idea his daughter has jumped.
Jenna, down here!
And I see the bear cocks its head back again, looks down at me.
By being active, she might have interpreted that he was doing a circle around to get at the cubs.
Hell-bent on finishing them off, the bear charges down the mountain.
Never felt or seen anything as strong and fast in my life. There's one big piece of muscle. He was lifting me up nearly out of the bushes.
Bears will sometimes try to flip people over to get at their face when they're going after people.
It was like, I need to keep this animal with me, you know, away from Jenna, basically. Next thing I remember, falling around a good steep fall, I said 30 feet or something.
Johan's luck holds. He's cheated death once more. But by chance, Johan has landed on the same ledge as Jenna.
And then when I landed down, and here's that bear, it's still, you know, with me.
Trying to protect his daughter, Johan has brought the angry Grizzly straight to her. Now the bear moves in for the kill. Johan Otter and his daughter Jenna have escaped a savage grizzly by throwing themselves off a mountain. Hot on their trail, the bear is going in for the kill.
The animal just wants to get rid of you, to neutralize you, to make you no threat to her cubs.
Jenna tries to hide, but Johan faces the predator head on.
But I just wanted to make sure it was, you know, away from Jenna.
Johan grabs for the nearest weapon, but it turns to dust.
And I still remember those two eyes, amber brown, looking straight into my eyes. No feelings.
Looking bears straight in the eye and continuing to look at them is generally aggressive.
And it really started chomping down on my arm. It was just ripping it apart.
We don't have the physical structure to stand up to even a friendly wrestling match with a bear, let alone when they're ticked off and a mom is feeling defensive about her cubs.
You have this helpless feeling of, I can't do anything, but you want to help, but you can't do anything.
The bear goes for the killer bite to his head.
It's going after a person just like it would another bear. They're aiming for the mouth and the face because they're trying to disable their opponent's weapons. That's their teeth, that's their jaws.
The grizzly's canines are about 2 inches long, made for gripping and tearing. The molars are flat for crushing and grinding.
It really felt like it was trying to rip my head off. And the tooth really went into my skull. I could feel this bone cracking. And I remember thinking, okay, one more bite and I'm done. I looked down, and I'm like, oh, one more fall and I'm dead. But I also knew that if I would stay there, I would be dead.
Determined not to die, Johan breaks free and leaps into the void once again. A small rocky ledge saves him from certain death, 1,400 feet below.
And then I looked up, and the bear kind of was looking over the ledge, basically. I couldn't get to me. It was too steep, basically.
But the grizzly isn't done yet. It can still smell human flesh.
It was just fear of being found, which you know is inevitable. I heard the bear breathing and sort of like that stomach churning, like, oh no, kind of feeling. And I must have screamed.
Jenna. Worst sound in the world. You've tried to keep this animal with you as long as possible to keep it away from your daughter, and still.
Jenna is trapped.
Its lower jaw was the one that ripped open my mouth, and the upper one was the one that grabbed on my neck. And my whole head was in its mouth. Okay, I'm dead. Get it over with.
This could be the end of the line for Jenna. Johan Otter has escaped a savage grizzly attack by jumping off a mountain. The bear has now turned on his 18-year-old daughter.
Jenna.
Face to face with death, Jenna takes a huge gamble.
I just tried to be as still as possible so that it would think that I was dead.
The playing dead routine works if you can quit moving, and if you can remain as silent as possible. That tells the bear, okay, this person is no longer a threat. You can leave.
Jenna keeps completely still and silent. Johan has no idea what is happening.
I don't hear anything anymore. I mean, it could mean one or two things. One, the animal left my daughter alone, or two, she's dead.
Johan doesn't dare make a sound. If the bear has gone, any noise might bring it back. He waits 2 agonizing minutes, then decides to take a chance.
Jenna.
That's probably the best feeling. I'm sorry. It's still I get a little emotional.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Her voice was very strong, sounded very healthy.
Oh, I think I'm banged up pretty bad.
And it was going through my head, and then all I feel was just bone, 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 bone. Like, okay, I'm not going to feel anymore. That's not good.
It's still too early for many hikers to be this far up the trail. Johan uses his nylon jacket to protect his exposed scalp. He needs urgent medical attention. Adrenaline triggered by the attack is draining away. He is going into shock.
I was getting a little woozy and I was just shaking. I was so cold.
Johan and Jenna's cries are finally heard by other hikers. 2 hours later, they're airlifted to the hospital. Johan's spine and neck are broken. His scalp needs a skin graft. He has 3 broken ribs, a broken nose, and a punctured eye. It takes 9 operations and many months for Johan to recover. Jenna also requires surgery and begins university wrapped in bandages.
Yeah, you kind of feel guilty in a way, you know, because you've taken your daughter into a dangerous area. Shouldn't have done that. That's when you get a little emotional, like, you know, shoot, I'm doing this to all these people. I guess folks didn't care. They were happy I was still alive. So.
After the attack, experts agree the bear was acting naturally, trying to defend her cubs. They thought she posed no further danger to people, so she was not put down. For thousands of years, bears were America's supreme predators. From Alaska to Mexico, they were top of the food chain. Native Americans were in awe of their ferocious temper and huge strength. Some tribes worshipped bears. They wore their skin and claws as symbols of power. But killing a bear meant hunting in groups. It increased the chance of coming back alive. European settlers, however, were far less cautious. They saw bears as a dangerous pest that preyed on their livestock. Convinced their guns would protect them, they set out to kill as many as possible.
And this was the age of the homesteader. And for those people, if they lost a cow, if they lost a couple sheep, you know, it was a huge cost for them.
In the mid-1800s, prospectors pushed deeper into bear country, looking for gold. Scavenging bears soon learned that where there were people, there were food scraps. Very occasionally, bears also developed a taste for human flesh. Today, there are still freak incidents when bears see humans as prey. In the summer of 1997, Kelly McConnell's life was shattered when a black bear went on one of North America's most horrific bear rampages.
It was just trying to eat me.
Liard River Hot Springs, British Columbia, a popular place to relax and unwind. It's home to many black bears who feed on food scraps that people leave behind. In rare cases, they can take that terrible next step.
It's bears that have been both habituated to people and then food conditioned that have injured or preyed on people.
Like other bears in the park, this male feeds on human leftovers as well as plants and insects and the occasional young animal. An opportunistic predator, he's almost always hungry, a potentially dangerous situation.
When are we gonna go back to Paris?
Where are you gonna go
back to Paris.
13-year-old Kelly McConnell and his mother, Patty, are moving from Texas to Alaska to start a new life. They're breaking the long trip with a well-earned rest.
We're just going to relax after a long day of driving. We just wanted to go to the hot springs itself and relax.
Even though they know there are bears in the area, Kelly and his mother decide to explore the park.
And I actually did comment at that time, I wish that I could see one. And my mother corrected me and told me that I did not wish I would see one.
But Kelly and his mother have no idea of the danger they're in.
It's so rare. Are you going to
The bear can smell prey, and it's closing in on them.
A predaceous attack, by and large, is a slow approach toward you, constant following of you, if you like, waiting for its tactical advantage to come in and get on you.
Okay, you know what? It's getting late. Come on, let's go. Kelly, come on.
Patty and Kelly have walked into a death trap. Frozen with fear, she has no idea what to do.
Kelly,
All right, Mom.
there's a bear.
Yeah, right, Mom. I didn't believe what she was saying. She's always fooling around. I didn't know what to believe.
Kelly. Kelly.
But it's no joke.
Don't move.
If it's not making any noise, if it's not making a commotion, and it starts coming at you, this bear's in a predatory mode, and you've got to start thinking about what can I do to defend myself.
The 400-pound beast viciously attacks Patty. Both she and Kelly are staring death in the face. This bear could rip them apart in seconds. In a nature park in British Columbia, 13-year-old Kelly McConnell has put his life on the line to save his mother from the jaws of a bear.
And I was screaming for help, and there was no one around. Felt so helpless.
A bloodthirsty beast tears into Patty.
It was trying to eat my mother.
Bears don't always completely kill their prey before eating it. They'll just start eating. And they do that with big game animals, and it's pretty well known that they do it with people too.
Kelly desperately tries to save his mother. But then, in a heartbeat, the bear turns on him.
I can just remember thinking, I hope that I saved my mother's life, but I remember thinking it was all a nightmare.
Kelly has become the beast's next meal. The bear locks its powerful jaws around his waist and lifts him off the ground.
I could feel the bones crunching in my body like I was pretty sure I was going to die.
Kelly's about to pass out, but suddenly the animal drops him. He falls on his front, keeping his vital organs safe from the bear's teeth and claws.
They just began mauling me from the backside. It would just bite into my back and just tear my skin. It was eating me.
Kelly and his mom are so far from the hot springs, there's a danger no one will hear their screams. But one man does. Ray Kitchen, a truck driver, races to the scene and heroically takes on the man-eater himself.
This is an animal that's obsessively hungry, if not starving to death, and it may see other people that interfere as trying to take the carcass away from them.
The bear's reaction is explosive. It turns on Kitchen and begins to eat him alive.
Bears sometimes go into what they call surplus killing. They get into a herd of sheep, and it's so easy to kill them, they just knock them over left and right, way more than they're ever going to be able to eat.
Kelly is too badly wounded to do anything to help. Kitchen is pinned beneath the raging animal. He can do nothing to stop it ripping him to pieces. Tony Dowd, a trucker from Alberta, hears Kitchen screaming and comes to help.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The bear was on Ray Kitchen, mauling him to death. And it stared at me. I was looking at it straight in the eyes. And I hit him dead square in the eyes. And its claws come up and just missed me because I jumped back.
Tony is lucky the bear doesn't go after him. Instead, it finally kills Ray Kitchen.
I heard Ray scream his last few, or try to scream, the last few thought or sounds that his voice could make. And I screamed, "Oh my God, oh my God," and that was it.
Ray's throat has been ripped open.
They're getting the neck because they're going for the windpipe and for the vertebrae.
Kelly's wounds are so bad he can't move. Patty is alive, but very weak.
She told me that I should take care of my sisters. And then she told me she loved me.
Patty loses consciousness. Other people are drawn by the shouts. They desperately try to keep the furious bear away from Kelly and his mom. Paramedic Ingrid Bailey joins the frantic rescue effort.
Mr. Kitchen was just flat out on the ground, missing a big chunk of his neck. And at that point, I stopped trying to do anything for Mr. Kitchen and went over and aided the other two folks who had already been attacked.
Ingrid does what she can, even though she could be next.
You gotta put pressure on these ones.
The bear is only a few feet away. It could strike at any moment. The only way to end the carnage is by killing the bear.
Keep putting pressure on that wound.
But this vicious predator is not done yet with its bloody rampage. It has the taste for human flesh and wants more. A black bear has savagely attacked Patty and Kelly McConnell and killed the man who tried to help them. Now the bloodthirsty bear is on the rampage and heading towards the hot springs. There's panic. But running bodies trigger the bear's killer instinct.
The attraction of moving prey overrides the feeding. They'll feed later.
The massacre won't end until someone kills the crazed beast. Ingrid Bailey is still trying to revive Patty when the bear attacks another victim.
He caught up with a group of college students, and the last student in line slipped on the boardwalk, which was a little damp from a light rain, and the bear caught up with that person and mauled him as well.
Finally, someone arrives with a gun. The bear is shot dead.
Lots of pressure. He's losing a lot of blood.
But it's too late for Patty McConnell. She dies of her horrific injuries. Her 13-year-old son, Kelly, just manages to pull through.
Both my lungs were punctured. They said there was over 100 centimeters of stitches. I had suffered a few broken ribs. 3 of my vertebrae were broken.
An attack like this is very rare. 2 people are dead and 2 seriously injured. But incredibly, Kelly doesn't hate the animal that took his mother's life.
I feel like the bear, it didn't try to do anything that wasn't normal for it to do. I mean, normally bears don't attack people, and then probably had no choice but to attack or else die from starvation itself.
The horrific events at Liard Park show just how helpless we are when these predators turn on us. Without a gun, the death toll could have been much higher. Killing a bear in full attack mode is difficult, even with modern weapons. Back in the 1800s, it was much harder. As Michigan hunter and trapper Franklin Devereaux found out in 1883 when he tried to shoot a grizzly. In the time it took to reload his gun, the enraged bear charged and killed him.
Placing a headshot, unless the bear is immobile, is just about impossible. The skull is very hard. The hammer, you'd have trouble breaking it.
In those days, bears were often only injured, and a wounded bear is extremely dangerous. It will stop at nothing to kill its attacker. The invention of the repeating rifle finally gave man the upper hand.
When we went from single-shot muskets to lever-action repeating rifles, that was a huge blow to grizzly bears. And it was both a combination of firepower, how fast you could shoot, and also the power of the weapon.
Hunting bears became a popular sport. They were killed in the thousands. Grizzly bear numbers plummeted, and today they are protected by law. But as more hunters and hikers venture into the last remaining wilderness, violent encounters still happen. And when an angry bear attacks, even a modern weapon may not save you. In the summer of 2001, Pastor Johnny McCoy found a gun wasn't enough to protect him from a furious grizzly, determined to see him dead.
And she was literally just trying to break my skull.
Pastor Johnny McCoy and Church Deacon Gary Corral are old friends who've been hunting together for years. They're on a 2-week hunting trip in the Alaskan wilderness.
We was going moose hunting to have the meat for the winter, or for the following year. That's what we eat. That's the food for the family.
They are well aware of the dangers lurking in the woods. While tracking their prey, they soon notice signs of grizzlies.
It makes me absolutely nervous walking through the woods, knowing that there are bear there, knowing that we are in their territory.
Wait, is it nearby?
This scat belongs to a female grizzly. She has cubs nearby. McCoy and Corral trek further into the bear's territory. Unlike hikers, they make as little noise as possible.
Hunters are probably more prone to bump into bears than other people because they're moving quietly.
Catch up to you. All right, I'll be up ahead. Okay.
McCoy takes a break. Corral presses on. Alone, he's much more likely to be attacked. Corral is walking quietly. The grizzly won't see or hear him until it's too late.
It was probably just out there with its cubs. All of a sudden, here's these people. So to Ma Grizzly, you see that as a threat.
McCoy, meanwhile, hurries to catch up with Corral. Suddenly, something tears out of the trees. It's racing towards Corral.
She ran right out within 10 feet in front of me. In my mind, I said, it's a bear.
McCoy can't shoot. He could hit Corral. By the time his friend hears a grizzly, it's too late.
And as I turned my head and looked around, all I could see was the mouth of a bear, and it was wide open. I just thought that the bear's going to kill me. Today I'm going to go be with the Lord.
At first, Corral's backpack shields him from the deadly claws.
The bear was just trying to get the pack out of the way to get it done.
I'm thinking my buddy, my best friend is going to be killed. So I'm saying, God, what do I do?
But Corral doesn't panic. Incredibly, he pulls his gun out from under him and points it blindly over his shoulder.
It wasn't an easy thing to do. I squeezed the trigger and boom. It was instant relief.
But a second later, Corral hears a terrifying scream. Church Deacon Gary Corral has been attacked by a grizzly. He shot the bear, making it let go. Now the enraged beast turns on Corral's hunting buddy, Johnny McCoy.
When bears are injured during an attack, it seems that pain is a stimulus to attack harder.
McCoy reacts with lightning speed.
And I just took my gun, I thought, oh my goodness, and shoved it in her mouth.
The grizzly bites down.
When I shoved that gun in her mouth and pulled the trigger, there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then she just swatted out of the way.
The grizzly leaps on McCoy with a vengeance. biting deep into his arm and shoulder.
And I've never heard any more agonizing screams of horror than the screams that I heard him put out.
And the first thing that she did was to bite and break my arms in 9 places.
A grizzly's jaws can exert over 750 pounds of force. It's like being hit by a sledgehammer. Coral can't shoot in case he hits McCoy. He can only watch as the bear tears his friend apart.
I could hear the bones crunching. I could actually hear them breaking. I seemed to even be able to hear the flesh being ripped off of these bones.
McCoy can't fight anymore. His arms are badly mauled. The grizzly now lunges for his head, the death blow.
And all I could smell was her breath. It was the most awful stench I've ever smelled in my life. And I thought, okay, God, this is it. Lord, I'm ready. This is it. And I just quit. I just quit.
McCoy's body goes limp.
And the bear turned around and looked at me.
Suddenly, the bear runs off.
I think in about 1 second, he must have covered 100 yards. He was clear out of sight. I never fired a shot. It was so quick.
McCoy is in bad shape.
I'd already resigned the fact that I was not going to make it. I could have bled to death.
Johnny. Both his arms are badly injured. His scalp is shredded. His ear is torn off. One eye hangs from its socket.
Talk to me.
Coral must act quickly to save his friend.
Well, we had lots of game sacks. So I took the game sacks and put his scalp back on as good as I could and put his eyeball back in his head and stuffed his ear up in there and tied the game sacks on him. And when I got done, I looked at him and I thought, oh my, how am I ever going to get him to stand up?
McCoy can't see anything, and they've left their cell phone back at the camp. It takes the injured hunters 3 hours to get there. Eventually, they are airlifted to the hospital.
Emotionally, I'm still dealing with that. It's tough. If I'm under a lot of stress, my wife has to wake me up because I'm fighting with a bear all over again.
I woke up a few times at night thinking about this bear on my back. With the bear tearing him apart, and the bones crunching, sure, you don't ever forget that.
The grizzly bear was later found dead of the single gunshot wound. Thousands of people encounter bears every year, but attacks are unusual.
It's most likely one of 2 causes. One, it's a predatory incident, and that happens with both black bears and grizzly bears. And then the second thing is defense of personal space.
When bears do strike, it can have a profound and lasting effect on those who are lucky enough to survive.
In the blink of an instant, your life can completely be changed without you having any say in what happens. So you should just go out and live every day like it's your last day, because it might be. You just never know.
I will never, ever be the same again in a tremendous way. I don't take the wildlife for granted. I don't take grizzly bears for granted anymore.
Despite their close brush with death, many survivors don't blame the animals.
I have no ill feelings towards grizzly bears whatsoever. I think they're incredible animals. When you're going through a country that still has grizzly bears in it, it's just beautiful to see.
But as we encroach ever further into bear territory, there will still be times when we become human prey.